Welcome to another episode of Band Director Bootcamp, the podcast with productivity and wellness tips for busy band directors. I'm your host, Lesley Moffat, and I'm really grateful to be sharing this platform with you. As busy band directors, we know you don't have time to sit and watch lengthy professional development webinars, so we share 20-minute tidbits with takeaways you can use to support you with professional longevity and a healthier life. And today I've got Bill Miller with me. Bill and I've talked before, and so I was thrilled that he was willing to come back today because he's a composer and he's goes around and does. He's very active in the classroom through his clinics and the things that he does private music instructing, and he's just spent the last year really doing a lot of observing in classrooms of all different kinds. And he's coming back to share some common themes that he has seen as he's made those observations, and going to offer some tips that maybe if some of those things sound familiar, you might go, oh, I might want to try that to get out of there. So, hey, Bill, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk today about like being stuck in a rut. And here we are, like starting off a school year, maybe you're not in a rut yet. Or maybe you already are all overwhelmed. You're just like, maybe you want to try some things or change things up. And you're just like, where do I start? How do I even do this? And so he's going to talk to us about some things he's seen people do or done himself, just to maybe something you don't have to think about as much. And you can make some changes that are for you and your students in the classroom that make it, a better year for you. So, hey, Bill, what's your music background? Let's give everybody just a little taste of what you do.
Well, I've been composing for roughly 2 decades now. I'm only 30, but I started composing young. I play trumpet, and I'm reasonably proficient at piano as well. But outside of music, I do like the occasional video game or two. I have made Minecraft videos in years past and stuff like that too, which has been a lot of fun and is a great kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say distraction, but definitely something fun that I can do on the side as well.
We got to have a little something on the side besides just the music stuff, right?
Absolutely, always.
So how interesting for you. You have an opportunity to be in all different kinds of classrooms as an observer or as a coach or as a clinician. You talk to directors all the time. And you said, as we were talking before the podcast started, that you started to see some themes or some common things that were going on that were either hard for or challenging or whatever for some folks. And so share with us first maybe some of the common themes, and then we'll talk about some action steps people might want to take if they find themselves in those same ruts, if you will.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I noticed as I was going from school to school is just even observing, posts on Facebook and stuff like that from teachers, is that teachers are exhausted right now. That's a no-duh statement, obviously, but I think especially in the last few years, the expectations have just become astronomical, but the resources have not necessarily been there. And, and this goes into scheduling as well. I know, there are so many band directors who are like, I have 25 kids, that want to do band, but only 5 of them actually got signed up. Or, you get kids who are unsure as to whether or not they can actually do band, or you got, their parents going, oh, band isn't important enough. And so band directors are being just hemmed in on all sides. And one thing that I've noticed is they seem to the band directors seem to take it out on themselves, and almost kind of regress into this. I don't think I can do it. And when we regress into that, we want to do something that we're familiar with. We retreat to something we're familiar with. And I'm guilty of this as well. It has been a very, very difficult year. A lot of things, happened that weren't on my bingo card. And I caught myself about January, February, getting really pessimistic over, my abilities and the abilities of my students. And I had to kind of take a step back and go, no, I got to look at this a different way. The lack of energy, the lack of desire to explore music has been quite prevalent. Programming the same pieces over and over again because it's familiar to us. That has also, been something I've observed as well.
Well, part of that too, I think, and you and I were talking again about this, but that programming of the familiar music, for example, or doing the same routines over and over without much changes, we're overwhelmed when we have time to think about, researching or doing new things. So that can feel really hard.
Yeah, and to kind of put a point in this, I forgot to mention this earlier, but my mom is a professional organizer, and the one thing I showed her were some of the posts of music educators going, "Oh, my library is so full." Well, they're playing the same 6-8 pieces from year to year, and they have hundreds of pieces that are in their library that they haven't touched. And so you have this, my mom always says, real you versus ideal you. And part of all that extra clutter in the office is now translating to clutter of the mind. Mm-hmm. And it's a bad combination. It's not something that's going to help you out. So it's like, if there is, music you haven't touched in decades, okay, get rid of it or give it to a program that, can actually, make some good use out of it. But to that end is like also then opening yourself up to the, hey, this one obscure piece that I have in my library, maybe I'm going to program that this time. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, a lot of moldy oldies in there that yeah. Like you said, and just that process of going through and doing that, inventory of it yourself and make, in a perfect world, we would all be keeping track of each piece we perform at each concert with which groups so we could, get a better picture of it. I don't do that. I wish I was better at it. I'm not.
I'm guilty of it as well. It's like the organizing thing skips a generation. Yeah. My mom's brilliant at it. I go, hey, paper goes, and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Well, and like you said earlier, we were the burnout. We band directors get to be people pleasers. And so, people like the old stuff and tradition, and it can be hard to step outside our comfort zones and the like. And you talked about some things that you can do as you're maybe trying to try new things or step out of comfort zones and feeling like you're enough. And you use the word affirmations. And why would affirmations be helpful to people? Talk about what they are and why we would use them.
Well, one size does not fit all, and I fully acknowledge that what works for me doesn't necessarily work for somebody else. But I know for me, just kind of the constant reminders that I am enough and able to, and I am a music professional, and I have the skill set needed to do what it is that I'm setting out to do. Kind of helps center me a little bit. So when things get so incredibly overwhelming, that reminder that, I'm capable just kind of gives me that needed confidence to then go, all right, this is exactly what we're going to do. We constantly affirm others. Teachers, don't we? We understand the power of that. Telling our students, you're doing a good job. And we do those things because we know that helps them. And so personal affirmations do the same things for us. Oh, exactly. Well, and I also liken it to, when you're on an airplane. When you're on an airplane, in that safety briefing, they tell you, number one, if you're traveling with a child, put your mask on first. Because if you don't and you help the child and then you're, passed out from oxygen deprivation, there's nobody that's going to be able to help that kid. And so you got to make sure that your own emotional, mental tank is full first and you feel fulfilled before going and helping those kids. Because if you're not there, game over already.
And it's easy to hear we're not enough because there's always more to do and more stuff, but it's not about what we do.
Exactly.
It's who we are. And what matters the most. And
the impact of what we leave behind, because we kind of talked about it's like the kids aren't going to remember the shiny trophy or the score they got at a particular festival. They're going to remember the funny thing that happened when you dropped the baton or sent it flying. Guilty, by the way.
Poked yourself in the eye with it, and it got stuck. And had to go to the hospital. They remember that too.
No.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to tell me more about that later on, though, because now that's really fascinating. It's just they're going to remember. It's like, oh, we played this one really cool piece, and now that I hear it, I can pick up my instrument 20 years later and play along with it like it was, like it was yesterday,
and bring back those feelings again.
Exactly. And I've seen band directors too. It's like when they pick up the instrument, they're like, I can't believe I'm having so much fun. It's like they're a kid again. I had a student who just told me, or a former student, I should say, who just told me over lunch. She's like, hey, I'm thinking about changing my music, my major to music education now because of the experience that I had in, the summer band with you. And I'm like, first off, I was like, I needed to hear that. It's like, but it just, again, that reminder that you are enough and that you do have a positive impact on the people in your care.
And that segues nicely into, and if you're wanting to make some changes or try new things, the way you show up to do that is important. We were talking about energy that you bring to the table. Expand on that a little bit.
Exactly. So, I have been a firm believer that you reap what you sow. And, it's not ideal what is dumped on the laps of a lot of music teachers nowadays. Band directors being suddenly asked to teach a general music course or what have you, or a choir teacher being expected to teach band or whatever. The issue that I have, and I will bristle when I see it, is if you go into it with this is all that is wrong with this particular, schedule, this particular situation, the kids are going to pick up on it. I saw a post fairly recently where I saw someone who was like, I have to teach general music. Oh, it's such a great waste of time. And I'm sitting there going, if it's a great waste of time, we're going at it the wrong way. See, when I was given multiple general music courses that I needed, to teach when I was in a back, full time in the classroom, and I taught them as best I could with what little resources I had, and I went into it with an attitude of going, nah, I know this isn't ideal, but we can do it. And I ended up having a lot of those general, music students end up joining band and choir later on because of their experience in general music. And in band as well, it's like if you give them something challenging and give them some literature that pushes their skills, they then believe, oh, he believes in me or she believes in me, I can do it. And then they then feel compelled to then go home and actually practice because they feel that support.
Some common themes, how we're feeling and what we believe in, because that's what drives all the learning and all of the things.
Exactly.
And we're going to talk in a minute. We've got one more resource we're going to talk a little bit about. But before we wrap that up, I want to take just a moment to thank our sponsor, the Empowered Music Educator Academy, where they help busy band directors create successful programs, build supportive communities, and feel freaking amazing by providing productivity and wellness tips that support professional longevity and a healthy life.
You're listening to the Band Director Boot Camp podcast, brought to you by the Empowered Music Educator Academy. At the Academy, we're dedicated to supporting busy band directors like you with practical productivity and wellness strategies. Whether it's through our books, coaching sessions, or GPTs designed specifically for band directors, we've got everything you need to lead a successful music program without burning out. Let us help you achieve excellence in your work without working around the clock.
All right. Before we wrap things up, I want to talk to Bill for just a minute. You were talking about, expanding the literature that our kids are doing and doing things that might get us out of our comfort zones and the like. And I can hear people out there in the audience right now saying, I don't have a budget to do that kind of thing. Yeah. So I'm going to shift gears here, put you on the spot here, because I know that you offer something that's kind of a cool, unique thing that could be a super valuable resource for those of us that have limited budgets but want to have more music available. So talk to us about what you've got going on.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I currently, through my website, Music Miller Creation, I'm doing great, and this is my own business, right? All right. Getting over that embarrassment. Miller Music Creations, my website. I offer a sheet music subscription service for a lot of my pieces on an annual basis. So for an annual rate, you get access to essentially $1,000 worth of music and growing for free, plus any new releases within that year, you get them, sent to you for free as well. Or you can, opt instead going, I'll download what I want, and so on and so forth. And it more than pays for itself, and then, a couple scores. A subscription gives you the right to make as many copies of the music as you need. I was on JW Pepper getting all frustrated because I saw their little notice going, you can't copy this. I was like, we should fix that somehow, because kids, we love them, but they sometimes lose their music quite frequently.
What? Only the drummers.
Right. And the occasional trumpet player, wink, wink, nudge, nudge me. Not only are you allowed to do that, you're also allowed to, it gives you built-in synchronization rights. So if you want to make a recording of your concert, you can do so and not have to worry about getting sued. All I ask is that you send me a link, because I would love to see and hear your band, play. And if you happen to be local, invite me, to your concert, and I'll be,
Where's local? You better tell them.
Yes, local is Phoenix, Arizona, of course.
God, you must be nice and toasty warm down there.
Yes, we are burning right now. So, but and there are a wide variety of other perks as well. You also get I wouldn't say first pick necessarily, but you get a direct line, on your wish list. So if you're like, I really wish I, had like a Halloween piece that did XYZ. I understand that, if the subscriber says that, I'm going to be like,
get on it, Bill.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I mean, there are, a great many perks that if you're interested, you can always, go to my website.
We're going to put the link for that in our, podcast show notes in case Bill forgets again and can't remember it. He can link right there too. Don't feel bad, Bill. When I my first red carpet interview for my first book, and they had some pre-interviews before going out. Thank God, because it was a pre-interview. But then they asked me, "Oh, Lesley Moffat's here with us. Lesley, what's the name of your book?" And I go, "Huh." And I just looked at him. I'm like, I don't even remember.
Dude, I spent years writing this. Why am I embarrassing?
So I feel you on that. So.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and put that link in there so that those of you who are listening who are interested can check out Bill's compositions, and that's a service that he's got, so that you've got some extra resources if that's something that you're making a goal this year, is to expand some of what you're doing. I love that you also were willing to talk about things like affirmation and the like, those mindset pieces that we often don't bring up a lot.
Yeah.
Those have been a huge part of my personal and professional healing and success. So I love talking about all that.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I thought you were going to add something else.
I was just going to add, as well as, when it comes to, if you are presented with an opportunity to challenge your kids, take it. You may not get, superior with distinction, but you know what? They're going to remember it. And just, if you select a challenging piece of literature, don't get overwhelmed. I know it's easier. So it's like saying, don't be sad, just be happy. But, take a particular rhythm that you think might, cause the kids some initial difficulty, plop it in the warm-ups, and just do stuff, like that to make the whole process easier.
Yeah, instead of taking, here's the whole thing, let's break it in chunks, even before you give the kids the music kinds of things, right?
Exactly.
So teaching some rote rhythm stuff like we discussed and those kinds of things, so that when you give them the piece, they feel more success with it the first time, and then it's more buy-in.
Exactly.
We can psych these kids out all the time. Oh gosh, it was great to catch up with you, to have you back on here, looking at a little something different than we did the first time that we were here. So thanks a million, Bill.
Well, of course, thank you for having me again.
Yeah, and thanks to all of you band directors out there for making a difference in kids' lives every day through the magic of music education. The work you do matters, and so do you. So join us next time on Band Director Boot Camp for another episode of productivity and wellness tips to make your life a little bit easier.